Hi, I'm Teacher Jerry. I'm from the United States of America. I'm from a small little island called Hawaii. Does anyone know where Hawaii is? If you do, raise your hand. Hawaii is a small island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It's halfway between California and Vietnam. Hawaii is a state in the United States of America, and it's the 50th state. I was educated in the United States, in Europe, and in Australia. I went to high school in Germany, and I graduated from high school in Germany. Then I was in the Army, and then I was working with NCR Corporation. It's the large global corporation that makes all of the ATM machines for all of the banks worldwide. So if you ever go to an ATM machine and see NCR, then we made the machine and the code. I have a bachelor's degree in computer science, and I have a master's degree in English. After college, I went to work with Gathering of Developers, and it was a game developer that developed 100 titles, and I'm credited with about 30 or more game titles from Take-Two, GTA, Max Payne, Railroad Tycoon 2, the game Fly and Fly 2. And then I went to work for NCR Corporation. I was working for NCR Corporation for 5 years, and then I moved to Australia, where I became a manager in the software and services engineer department for the point of sale systems and the ATM machines in Asia Pacific. After that, after COVID, I moved to Vietnam, and I've been in Vietnam for 4 years now. I've been teaching for 4 years in the Saigon Public Schools with EMG Education, and most lately at APU International School, where I was the computer science teacher and AP computer science teacher for grades 7 through 12, so secondary and high school. In APU, we focused on web development for the standard classes, and for the AP classes we were developing games through Scratch using Java and Python. Scratch is also unique because it has its own object-oriented language, so that you can just drag and drop commands in a tree and in different orders to create the logic and create the programming behind it. Each one of my students created their own individual games, and we had teams between the boys and the girls to create a team-based game. And on Scratch, we created Flappy Cappy, which is a gravity-based flying game, similar to Mario Brothers. And since then, I'm applying for the position of AP Computer Science teacher at Vietnam Australian International School. Today I'm going to do a short demonstration and a short explanation of the AP Barron's AP Computer Science A textbook. Just a few of the commands that are in there to give you a general idea about the content and the AP exam requirements. Now, raise your hand if you've ever played Roblox, Minecraft, or any other mobile online game. In computer science A, we don't create the full games themselves, we create the logic behind the games. What I'll be doing is a live demo with some code that you can see to demonstrate the different pieces of code and their meaning and how they work. The first step we need to consider is creating classes. We can create classes called player, enemy, NPC, animal, anything that has a health and a score. A class is a blueprint. It describes what the player has. It may have health, a score, inventory, any other things that the player has attributed to itself. Each player object will have its own copy of these. Other classes can be enemy, NPC, anything that will be an object in the game. The next step we need to consider is adding a constructor. A constructor runs automatically when a player is created. Instead of setting values manually every time, the constructor guarantees that the player starts with 100 health and 0 score. So here we have public player health equals 100 and score equals 0. This is a constructor. The next step we need to consider is adding a method. Public void attack, score plus equals 10. This method represents a player's action, in this case an attack. Void means this method does not return a value. It just changes the player's score. Score plus equals 10 means that we can increase the score by 100. Using conditionals. This method checks whether the player is alive. Public Boolean is alive if health is greater than 0, return true, else return false. The statement makes a decision based on a Boolean condition. What is a Boolean condition? A Boolean condition is any condition that returns true or false, or if data for the attribute is not mandatory, null. For example, you may want to specify a condition that checks if the health of a player is less than 100. Here we have if health is greater than 0, the method returns true. Otherwise, it returns false. This directly matches AP exam questions involving if statements and returns values. We could just simplify this to just return health is greater than 0. This is a cleaner way, but the logic is the same. Using a loop. Many things in games have loops, like music, player attacks, enemy attacks. This loop simulates repeated enemy attacks. The loop runs 3 times. Each time the player loses 15 health. Loops are heavily tested on the AP exam, especially tracking how many times they run and how values change. Let's say if health starts at 100, after the loop it will be 55. In games and other programs, we also have to go back and check the logic, debugging, tracing the logic. So we can trace the logic in order. What happens in order? First, a player object is created and the constructor runs. The health is set to 100. The enemy attacks. The loop reduces the health. We check if the player is still alive using isAlive. This step-by-step tracing is exactly what students must do on the AP exam and in the real world for any program that they develop. They have to go back and check the logic and debug the code. This short example includes nearly every core concept in the AP Computer Science A book: classes and objects, instance variables, constructors, methods, conditionals, and loops. By using this game example, students stay engaged, but the logic stays academic and exam focused. That is the fundamentals of AP Computer Science A. Thank you everyone for your time.